Britain voted in a historic referendum to leave the European Union. Following are answers to key questions on what will happen next in Britain's relations with the bloc. 1. What does it all mean? The EU is in shock and entering uncharted territory. No member state has ever left, and Article 50 of the EU Treaty, which sets out how a state can exit the bloc, offers little detail. Although it provides a sketchy legal framework for a 2-year period of withdrawal, many fear the process can quickly become acrimonious, disrupting the economy and European affairs across the board. Having lost, Cameron faces huge pressure from his divided Conservative Party to resign, although he should remain premier until the party elects a successor. A deal Cameron struck with EU leaders in February to curb immigration, protect London finance interests from the Eurozone and opt out of ever closer union is killed by the referendum. If no treaty is agreed, EU law simply ceases to apply to Britain 2 years after it gives formal notice it is leaving. Until a departure treaty is signed, which requires assent from Britain and a majority of the remaining 27 states weighted by population, Britain remains, in principle, a full member of the EU but will be excluded from discussions affecting its exit terms. In practice, many expect British ministers and lawmakers to be rapidly frozen out of much of the Union's affairs. Some Brexit campaigners have also said Britain should act more quickly, for example to stop funding the EU budget or curb immigration from EU states. That could provoke EU reprisals. 2. What's happening right now? European Council President Donald Tusk, who will chair the summit next week and has spoken to all the leaders in the days before the vote, will deliver a statement in the name of the Council, the EU's governing body, once the result is official. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker, the EU chief executive, hosts Tusk and European Parliament President Martin Schulz at his Burlemont headquarters in Brussels at 10:30 a.m. 0830 GMT. Also present will be Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, whose government holds the rotating EU presidency. Look for a mantra of 3 Rs, regret, at losing nearly a fifth of the EU economy and more of its military and global clout, respect, for the will of the British people, and resolve, to keep the rest of the Union together. Leaders will also remind Britain that it remains a full member for the time being. Foreign ministers are gathering for a regular meeting in Luxembourg. The German and French foreign ministers will meet counterparts from the other 4 EU founders, Italy, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. All the bloc's ministers will discuss the vote over lunch from 1 p.m. Tusk has plans, as yet unconfirmed, to fly to key capitals, Rome, Berlin and Paris over the weekend to discuss the next steps. Foreign ministers of the founding 6 may meet in Berlin on Saturday. EU envoys meet in Brussels on Sunday, and Juncker may bring forward to Sunday from Monday a meeting of the 28 members of the Commission. French President François Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel meet in Berlin on Monday. Britain's Commissioner, close Cameron ally Jonathan Hill, faces being stripped of his sensitive portfolio overseeing banks and financial services. He may choose to resign. That would allow a new British premier to appoint someone else to the Commission, albeit for a limited period until Britain leaves. Some Eurozone finance ministers have said they may meet at the weekend, though Eurogroup officials say there are no plans. EU leaders meet in Brussels for a 24-hour summit starting at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. EU officials expect Cameron to report on the vote and what Britain will do next, then go home that evening. Leaders may agree to meet again in July. 3. What is Article 50? This 261-word section of the Lisbon Treaty has the following key phrases. A member state which decides to withdraw shall notify the European Council of its intention. The Union shall negotiate and conclude an agreement with that state, setting out the arrangements for its withdrawal, taking account of the framework for its future relationship with the Union. It shall be concluded, by the Council, acting by a qualified majority. The treaties shall cease to apply to the state in question from the date of entry into force of the withdrawal agreement or, failing that, 2 years after the notification, unless the European Council, in agreement with the member state concerned, unanimously decides to extend this period. The member of the European Council or of the Council representing the withdrawing member state shall not participate in the discussions, or in decisions concerning it. 4. Where does the EU go from here? The Union needs quickly to fill a €7 billion hole in its €145 billion annual budget, which is currently fixed out to 2020, as it loses Britain's contributions while saving on what Britons receive from EU accounts. The EU will also want to clarify as quickly as possible the status of firms and individuals currently using their EU rights to trade, work and live on either side of a new UK-EU frontier. Britain is likely to give up its 6-month presidency of EU ministerial councils, due to start in July next year. Its place may be filled by Estonia or, possibly Malta or Croatia. EU leaders may push for a quick show of unity on holding the bloc together in the face of Eurosceptics inspired by the result in Britain, including National Front leader Marine Le Pen, who leads polls for next April's French presidential election. Divisions between Berlin and Paris on managing the Eurozone probably rule out a big move on that front before both hold elections in 2017. Closer EU defence cooperation, without skeptical Britain, may be revived. A major EU security policy review is already on the summit agenda, as is a new push to tighten control on irregular immigration from Africa. Many leaders caution against alienating voters by moving too fast on integration, which they say has alienated voters. Summit Chair Tusk wants to launch a formal process of reflection on where the Union has failed to connect with people. 5. What changes? In principle, nothing changes immediately. Britons remain EU citizens and business continues as before. In practice, many believe trade, investment and political decisions will quickly anticipate British departure from the bloc. The EU could also face a Britain breaking apart if Europhile Scots make another push for independence and seek to join the EU on their own. There is a Brussels consensus that Britain must be made an example of for leaving and will face a chilly future, cast out to perhaps talk its way back later into some kind of trade access in return for concessions such as free migration from inside the bloc and contributions to the EU budget, things which Brexit voters want to end but which the likes of Norway and Switzerland have accepted in varying forms. However, cautious diplomats do not rule out surprise turns.